I see a bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way.
Hey Moon Babes!
Hello!
I'm Bree.
I'm Jackie.
And we are here today to talk about manipulation.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, whether intentional or unintentional, or maybe people that you know are master manipulators. Don't know that it's always necessarily a very bad thing, but it typically has a negative connotation. Our wine for today that we're going to be drinking is Josh Rosé.
Rosé.
Yeah, rosé all day. Oh, well, right. We've actually already had a glass, but we are pouring a little bit more because it's just one of those really hot summer days in Texas, and rosé is fitting perfectly. If you haven't tried Josh, it's this particular rosé is the only like fruity wine that does not give me a headache in any way.
Really?
Yeah, no, not at all. I normally can't drink rosé because I'm kind of sensitive to all the sugar. But, like, that's why we always do dry.
Sense.
Yeah, that's why we always do dry. But
Yeah.
this one is really, really good. So, if you have a chance, try it. Not super expensive.
Grab
I think
you
it's
a
like,
glass of something.
yeah. Yes, go get some wine.
Ooh, because we're going to dig in here.
Into manipulation. I should have poured yours first. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm so
you're
rude.
fine. I should have manipulated you into pouring mine first.
Maybe you're bad at it.
Well, that's what, okay,
I'm bad
so
at it.
when we were first thinking of this, it's like initially you think of all the people who manipulate you and like how bad it feels. But I was thinking the other day how even unintentionally, when you just have the very best of intentions, sometimes you can be manipulative without meaning to. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
So, what happened to you the other day where you felt like you were manipulating?
Okay, so I don't remember what it was
it at work?
specifically. It wasn't at work. It was, I tend to think a lot when I'm driving. And so I was just thinking back over like interactions, you name it, like, you know, just
Okay.
let the brain go.
Okay.
And I was thinking like, ooh, I don't like how I acted with that, or I didn't like how I played this part in whatever. I don't even remember what it was. And then I was thinking, well, it was because, like, I'm trying to dissect it. It's because I wanted this. Like, this was the end goal. Like, I wanted this out of it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, well, why did I feel like I had to manipulate to get it? Why didn't I just, like, be direct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good at being direct.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because if you can't just come right out and ask for it, but it's something that you want bad enough anyways, whether it's at work or in your personal life,
Right.
You're going to figure out a way to get it. And I feel like a lot of people have a hard time being direct anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Would you
Yes.
say that manipulating is the same thing as playing games?
I don't know. What do you think?
Initially, just there, I don't know exactly what story you were referring to, but initially just there, I like if it was in your personal life or it, like regarding your relationship or maybe not necessarily at work, I would think of that as a little bit of playing games. Like, well, if I do this, then that will make them do this, instead of just being like, hey, can I blah, 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 blah.
You know what I think the difference is? I think manipulation is when you're doing it or is when you're being unconscious about it. And I think playing games is when you are like, I'm going to do this, so this.
Watch,
I feel like that's
I'm
more
gonna make this
intentional.
motherfucker do
Yeah.
right. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
it has
I
to
got
do with
you.
the intent. So if you're like just blowing through life and you're like not really thinking about why you're doing things, I think you can be manipulative without meaning to be. But playing games, I feel like, is where you're just like shuffling your deck, like
Right. You're like,
okay,
dude, I
which
got
card do
I got
I
this
play?
person wrapped around my finger. You just watch. Right. Okay. I
Yeah.
get you. If you think about it, we've been manipulating people as a whole. Have been manipulating even from the time they're like little kids, and they're like, okay, well, I know my mom's gonna say no to that. I'm gonna go ask my dad. Or my mom did say no to that. I'm gonna go ask my dad.
Whoa.
Or hey, I cleaned my room so good today. And then they're like, okay. And you're like, okay, well, can I go hang out with my friends? Right? Like that's from the very beginning you manipulate. And I wouldn't say that any of that is necessarily bad, but
It's kind of programmed.
yeah. But it's just a way for you as a person, whether you're a child or an adult, to try to get what you want. And you can't just have everything you want all the time, right? So you in a way have to not pay a debt necessarily, like as a child that cleaned the room, right, in order to go out with their friends. But
kind of, though.
In some way,
it's almost
you have
set
to
up
do
like
something
that.
to get what you want.
It's almost like a works-based system of love. I don't know if that's like just culturally or if that's more worldwide, but I mean, you think in relationships today, I mean, not parent to child, but just like a partner relationship, and I feel like a lot of it is somewhat like that, is very works-based. So like, well, I don't like what they're doing, so all of those things I said about forever and all of this stuff, like, we're not going to work through it, like, I'm just done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's set up like you're talking about, like a kid, like you feel like, okay, well, if I do this, then like I have to do something.
Right. Yeah. So
ooh, you can't just directly ask for it and feel like you can get it.
But is that because you're taught that when you directly ask for things, like, you're told no, or you're told right, and you're taught the lesson as a child, like, hey, I'm sorry, you don't always get whatever you want.
Which is a good lesson.
Yes, it is.
That's a
right,
good lesson.
But then you turn around and you're like, God, but I really wanted that, So you have to figure out a way to get it. And then it's rewarded because, like, that thought process is rewarded and continued because you cleaned your room really well and your mom was in a good mood, so she did go let you hang out with your friends.
Right.
So you do learn from a young age that if you do certain things, you can butter people up, essentially, to get what you want. And I feel like that is manipulation, right?
It is, but it's like, it's not malicious so much.
No.
Like, it's almost just ingrained.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not malicious all the time. I think it, like I said in the beginning, it does have a very negative connotation to it. Like, you think manipulation, and you're like, "Ooh, right?" Like,
yes,
stay away from
bad
that.
word.
Right? Exactly. The M word.
And you don't want to associate with it either. Like, I even thought when I was kind of placing that label on how I had acted, I hated it, but I was like, I kind of have to be real. That was kind of I wish I could remember what it was, and I think it related. So, like, I'm engaged, I have a fiance, and he is just very matter of fact, and it's something I really admire about him, is that it's his thought process. It simply is like, okay, then this. And it's just, it cuts straight through all of the bullshit.
Right.
Like,
you're
all
almost
of
like,
the bullshit my mind
can
does.
you just, like, why do you have to be so blunt?
I was like, I need to try to take pieces of that. Like, obviously, men and women are very different, but, like, I would like to take a page from that. Right.
Yeah.
But I was kind of thinking, like, that would be very freeing to just be like, well, I want this, so I'm just gonna say it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Right. Yeah. It is hard to do that, though, for so many reasons. Like, that's a whole different video in and of itself, learning to be direct and honest about what you want.
Direct and assertive.
Yeah, that's something else entirely. But it's not easy for people. And, I mean, yeah, people manipulate. I think the key is recognizing when it's being done to you, right? Like, the mom's not stupid in our little example, right? Like, she knows that he wants to go out and play, so he cleaned his room. She's okay with it because the room is clean.
The room's clean.
She's not dumb. She's not just being manipulated blindly.
Right.
She's okay with how this trade worked, right? So the key is recognizing where manipulation is. And I do think there are people that use it maliciously, and where maybe it is more like playing games because it is more conscious, or they're just pro manipulators that might have, like a bad intention, right? And then so they're
not using
unconscious,
it for good.
but they're not good people anyways.
Right.
So even though it's unconscious, it's still to do something bad. But yeah, there are definitely people that are like master manipulators. And I think that's where we're going to go initially with this video anyways.
Right.
Is like, who are those people? Why do they do what they do? Like, what drives that?
And are all of them malicious? Like, I feel like that's another question too. And
like,
some
there
people
are
really
master
are just
manipulators that are not malicious.
Then maybe it's
I
kind
know
of like
one of those.
The ends to
you know one of those.
I do, yes.
Like, yes, very, very skilled at getting what she wants. Very, very skilled. She can look at a situation and I feel like it's almost like Cersei from Game of Thrones, right? Like super, super powerful. But you can look at all these different people and all these different, like, as part of a situation, all these different pieces. And you're like, okay, if I do this to this person and I make this person hear about it and
move
then
this one
this
here.
person thinks of that, and then maybe this person who's normally out of the loop will then become siding with this person. Then like between that and then somehow it loops around and like, okay, that's going to work out for me. Like,
wow, yes.
I don't have a brain like that,
No.
but I have seen someone do that. But I will say, I do not think this person is malicious.
Not at all.
In any way.
Not at all.
I just think her brain works that way, and it has made her a very successful woman.
Yeah.
Like, she's successful in business because she is so good at reading people and realizing people's intentions
It's
and
a
what
gift.
they want. Yeah.
She's very intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's like, do the means justify the end in that case? If the end goal is not something malicious, how do you feel about the moves, like moving all these chess pieces around to get to it? Is it so black and white?
Honestly, in a way, I kind of admire it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of admire it because I don't think it's harming anyone in any way, which is kind of my key with how I live my life, right? Like, I don't care how anybody lives their life as long as they don't harm anybody else.
Right.
And I don't feel like it's hurtful. I don't feel like it's mean. Does it in the end benefit this person? Yes, it does. But it doesn't harm others.
Right.
So I don't see a problem with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree. I do feel like when you hear that person is really manipulative, it sounds very black and white. Initially, you're just like, bad. That's very bad.
Yeah.
But I think it does have to do with the intent. Because this person has no malicious intentions, but is really, really
and
gifted.
the results.
Yeah.
If the results that play out are not something horrific, right? That's an extreme end of the spectrum, but if the results that play out are not bad, then I'm kind of like, does it even matter? Like, that's just how this person functions. That's how she gets through life, and she does a good job of it. That's not how I function necessarily, but
everybody has different, I don't even want to, codes that they live by. And, what I see is, this is a really, really strong woman. Is that it's mostly that who she is friends with also have to be, strong people and that understand her and appreciate, her gifts. And also whoever she is with, her partner has to be somebody that not only respects kind of her gifts, but somebody who can kind of stand on their own 2 feet and be strong too.
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good point, because if you have somebody who lives their life by manipulating people, I shouldn't make it like that's her entire life, you know what I mean? Because it's not.
She's
but
really great.
If she is skilled at doing that and she is strong as a whole, could she be with somebody who is easily manipulated? Do you think that would end up being good in the long term, right? Like, if somebody was easily manipulated, didn't possess the ability to realize they were being manipulated, like, that probably would not be a good match. I feel like she would run all over this person.
It's almost like that iron sharpening iron is she has to be with somebody who sees it as this challenge, they're together challenging each other.
For sure. They have to be on the same level. Maybe not a manipulator, but yes, somebody just as strong, for sure.
And do you think even that it is manipulating, or do you think that it's just, like you were saying, somebody who can read people and that is just strong and confident, so they don't have all these other barriers or things put in place where they're like, well, I shouldn't do that because that's this, when they know their intentions aren't bad, and that's just how they are without thinking.
It's not breaking their code in any way. Right, yeah. If I was better at it, I might do it. Right? Like, I am not just saying this for the purpose of this video, but I am not a good manipulator. I am very upfront. It's hard for me to dance around to try to get my point across, or just not say what I want to say. It's hard to live like that for a long time for me. So I just would rather blah. My brain does not work where I can piece together what happens if this person likes this person and blah blah, that whole puzzle. forget
Yeah.
about it. I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. So
Cannot. You
I
don't take any joy from
struggle
that.
to manipulate. Yeah.
I
I
think-
struggle. But I do know if someone's trying to manipulate me.
Oh, you can feel it immediately.
And I know this person enough to know when she's trying to manipulate me. And I'm just like,
Come on.
come on. Like, you could just ask me and I'll do it, right? Like, I already, you know, we're close. And so it's not a big deal. But I do think that's where it just gets important. I think it's
Yeah.
people need to know or need to be aware what other people's intentions are. Very long story short, and we can talk about this more in another video that's coming up, but I'm doing an exercise where I write down everything that I fear to try to release some of that fear. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing everything that I can think of that might scare me, right? And from failure to like abandonment to being homeless someday, right? Like whatever you can think of. Like the page is full of things. And one of the first things that I wrote on there was people. I am afraid of people because not everybody, obviously, right? But I know that people can be bad. And I know that people are frequently in it for themselves, right? Like everybody has some sort of sense of like, I'm going to take care of myself, right?
Right.
Like you as a
Yeah.
living being naturally have that in you.
That's natural.
Yeah, exactly. But that can mean a lot of people are bad and a lot of people are malicious and a lot of people will manipulate. And I think it's really important for everybody's mental health to be aware of those people if they're coming into your life.
I think that's really true. I think that matters. It kind of ties into having toxic people in your life. But then I guess I think of it just because originally I've never associated the label of manipulative with myself. Is like being able to say,
I
okay,
wouldn't have said that either.
But I think it comes from not being able to, or I haven't given myself like the
Right.
power to express my needs. So rather than just expressing it straight out, it's almost like a program where I want to get it met. So I do something. It's not like I do something like I like to think I'm pretty self-aware.
Yeah, you are. You are.
But it was kind of a hard pill to swallow. But also it does make you think, okay, well then let me look at what are my needs that I feel like are not getting met or that I'm having trouble voicing.
And how do I get better about just voicing it so that I don't have to
Right.
play a game? Although I don't think you should necessarily feel bad if you did manipulate in a situation either, right? Because we're saying it's not necessarily a negative thing.
Right.
It's also programmed that we think of that as bad, right? Like, so it's
big
just
time.
Like,
That's one of the worst things that you could probably say to somebody is like, you're manipulative. Like, think of like you know
my
what?
heart hurt.
You know what?
Like,
You're really manipulative. Like, that would sting.
yeah,
lot.
I'm cringing. Yeah, that's not.
But I don't think it has to be that bad of a label.
Yeah.
I think being self-aware enough, I say that. Like, I was in the car and I was like,
Oh my god, I'm manipulative.
oh no, I've become what I hate.
Have you ever seen that meme where it's like what it actually, or it's like what it looks like or what people think?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what am I
it's
trying
the-
to say?
It's
What
the
people-
portions of, like, what they think I this, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's like what am
I'm wrong,
trying to
I don't
say?
know.
Where's my words right now? Where are my words? We're 2 glasses of wine in. That's why I have no words. And it's like what most people think a spiritual awakening looks like. And it's all like Zen, right? And it's like what me having an actual spiritual awakening looks like. And it's like Jamie Foxx with like the glasses all twisted, right? Like someone caught him on a bad day, hair all up in a mess, and like shit's on fire in the background behind him. And that's exactly
missing teeth.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have, like...
Yes. Yeah. Like that's what when you actually realize, especially if you're doing any sort of shadow work or you're looking into like the darker parts of yourself, where it's like, ooh, I might be a little bit of this. Like it can be
ugly
scary
sometimes.
to admit that, but we're all human, right? Like we all
Yeah.
have good parts and bad parts. The universe is about balance. You can't have one without the other.
You have to,
Like
right.
we're not
it's
all perfect.
there.
And manipulating, not maliciously, but just manipulating to get what you want, I don't think is the worst quality to have.
Right.
Don't
I
stress
don't
out.
either. And I also think it's a survival tactic for a lot of people who grew up in
Having to
poor living
manipulate.
situations.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
the only way you could get what you needed was to manipulate it out of one of your parents that was supposed to love you unconditionally. Like, and your only way to get that, which
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as a child you need that, you need it without condition. But I think it's a survival instinct picked up.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
you either manipulate or you stuff it all into a box and just pretend it's not there. Like
Also
there's
not
so
healthy.
many.
Repression is not healthy, Jackie.
I'm just saying, but like coping mechanisms, like
Right.
it's
No,
like
yeah, I get
this
it.
or
I
this
get
or this.
it.
Like we're all unhealthy some way. It's just kind of like taking a journey to try to get
What's
better.
your malfunction is
Yes.
sneak peek. We're gonna do a video.
Yes.
What's your malfunction?
But
But we'll talk more in detail about that later.
That'll be
But-
a really fun one. I'm
I
excited.
know. But for manipulation, you guys let us know what you think. I don't know if
Yeah.
we're totally on the mark or if you're like no, and you heavily disagree and you feel like most manipulation is for bad reasons or that it's really selfish.
Yeah.
Like, let us know. We're open for discussion. That's
Yeah,
totally
we'd
cool.
love to hear your side of it.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's all I have for today.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next week.
Yes. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, Moon Babes.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Don't go around tonight. It's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise.